Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video where today we'll return with round 13 of our F1 2001 career mode. Yes, we return this weekend here for the Japanese Grand Prix. Of course, if you missed out on the video that went live earlier on in the week from Singapore, I would highly recommend going back and check it out. One of the weirdest races we've actually ever had inside this game. And spoiler alert, we had a DNF. It's never happened before in this championship. We went back to watch an incident from another car, got back in our car, and the gearbox, something on the engine, had completely gone. Now, the weird thing is, engine wear and things aren't properly simulated inside this mod, so I don't even know what component broke. So I'm just going to put new ones in everywhere between now and the end of the year. So, yeah, we're going to have to order a new gearbox ready for the end of the campaign. It means we've now got a 26-point gap to Jacques Villeneuve in the Drivers' Championship. Funnily enough, actually, if you guys check the comments on these videos, we've got one lovely gentleman who keeps posting the 2001 scoring system for this mod. If we were running the 2001 points, I'd now be behind Heinz-Harald Frentzen as well. So we've got 4 races left to try and overhaul this advantage that Villeneuve has built up at the front of the order. He hasn't finished lower than second since the British Grand Prix, so it's going to be a difficult one. Like I said, get yourself subscribed if you're new. We're trying to hit 140,000 subs here on the channel, and yeah, let's do this thing.
Up everyone. They've announced that the technical regulations are changing for next season. Now there's a risk a lot of our hard work could be undone if we're not careful, so let's figure out how to mitigate this. Drivers, take a look at the developments we have and let us know what you want to invest in protecting. Alright everyone, let's get on top of this.
Well, fun fact there, inside this mod, it is Mahave Raghunathan that is David Coulthard, but as you can see, huge development changes ready for next season. So we're going to have our work cut out between now and the end of the campaign, trying to earn the R&D, both on the powertrain side of things and the aerodynamics. You guys have been asking me plenty of questions about my plans for next season. At the moment, I'm still undecided. If an offer came through from Ferrari, maybe I would accept it, but McLaren are looking pretty strong right now, so I could also be tempted to stay. Anyway, let's head out into qualifying. Well, heading into qualifying then, once again, just like Singapore, this hopefully will be a good chance for us. We're very, very quick through the first sector. It's just the second half of the lap where things get a bit more straight, that we seem to be struggling just a little bit more. So let's see what we can do then. Of course, David Coulthard bagged the team's second pole position of the year last weekend. Can he get our third as well? One lap pace has never been my strong point inside this mod, but maybe today can just be a little bit different there as we try and put the power down up the hill. It's been a pretty nice, tidy sector 1. Now we get into the Degners. You can see DC definitely not running as high downforce as me either. So he has done a really good job through that first sector, but there comes Jacques Villeneuve straight back into the fray. Of course, if we won, and it's a big if we won all 4 races between now and the end of the year, obviously depending on fastest lap bonus point, there'd be very little that Jacques Villeneuve can do, but he has been a little bit sketchy at a couple of points this season. So you never know what might happen before the end. They're just running a little bit wide through Spoon. But this will be where that Williams car absolutely comes alive as we make our way down the back straight in towards 130R. We just basically now are setting ourselves up for the Casio Triangle. 6 tenths back behind that Williams isn't as bad as I thought it could be. But nice and tidy on the way in. Plenty of curb on the way out. Try and get the power down. Shortest run to the line. It's a better qualifying effort than we've done recently. It is P4. Well, as always, we have focused the setup more on race pace there, so not a surprise that we were a little way away come the end of qualifying. Villeneuve, though, takes yet another pole position ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, DC in P3. Ferrari, after a strong weekend in Singapore, they're back to normal here. 12th and 15th on the grid, ready for this GP, so they're in for another tough time of things as well. But anyway, let's head then into the race.
Formula One on ITV in association Welcome along then to the magnificent Suzuka International Circuit, a stone's throw away from Issa Bay in the beautiful Japanese countryside. What surprises lie in wait for us today in the Japanese Grand Prix? 18 corners make up a lap of the incredible figure-of-8 Suzuka circuit, with 10 to the right and 8 to the left, for a distance of 3.6 miles. Average lap speeds around here are fairly quick. If it stays dry, then expect somewhere in the region of 136 miles per hour. And I'm joined once again by Anthony Davidson to bring you the lowdown for today's race. Let's start by talking about Kimi Raikkonen. Looks like they've got a tough race in store today, as grid penalties from changing power unit components has forced them further down the field.
But on the bright side, at least those fresh components can help them maintain the power they need to come through the pack. I expect to see them take a more aggressive approach today to make up for the compromised start.
Well, here we are then down on the grid, ready for the Japanese Grand Prix. I'm looking forward to this one. I feel like the car hopefully will be quite strong. Going to be very difficult to overtake those Williams on the road, so strategy, I feel, is going to be important today, and I need to be aggressive with the fuel. We're far too lenient with the fuel on this game. I'm going to gamble it and hope we get a safety car later on. We're going to go a lap under. It's a big risk. I mean, we've basically just got to do this if we want to have a shot at the world title. But ready then, here, P4. We got Mark Janage and Carlo Fisichella just behind. It is 5 red lights. How long was that hole? But it is finally lights out and away we go. And looks like Villeneuve actually struggling a little bit. Coulthard getting off to a good start down towards turn 1. I'm just going to try and cover off those cars behind in towards that first corner there, as can Coulthard go the long way around Frentzen and immediately try and upset those Williams rhythm. Oh, I just see there Frentzen trying to give him a big old squeeze, but not quite able to. I think we've had an incident behind there, but round the outside of Frentzen will go as well, and immediately having to try and use the aerodynamics, but we've already got a car gone. Well, I believe this is Johnny Herbert then. Lap 1. He's actually had a little bit of contact with his teammate, as you can see. And but his teammates just pushed him into a spin. Straight into the wall he goes. And on lap 1, one of the BAR Hondas, Home Grand Prix, let's not forget, is out after a contact between both of them. Well, we are getting to the point where it is do or die for our World Championship hopes, so we are going to have to take big gambles. Okay, I was not expecting DC to brake check me. Well, that's okay. 5-second penalty? That seems a bit harsh. Luckily, we haven't taken DC out of this, but I was planning on pitting anyway on lap 1. But I guess that's kind of forced us into doing it then. Luckily, I think we're going to be at the back of the field anyway, so we'll serve the penalty immediately. We'll get a new front wing on as well. But yeah, that has been a bit of a disaster. But we're going to have to try and get on with it then off of this restart. These next few laps are going to be pivotal for our Grand Prix because we've got to try and get ahead of Jacques Villeneuve when he does finally pit. Got one of the Minardis though first up. Actually, to be fair, Jarno Trulli and the other one's done a really good job of trying to get around some other cars. So can we get a run on Alonso? Well, almost immediately. Yes, we will. And that Minardi has basically got the worst of both worlds. It's got no straight line speed, but also it's got no cornering ability either, so that explains why that thing is often 2 seconds off the pace of anything else come the end of a qualifying session. Jean Alesi, I believe, served some grid penalties after qualifying, so that explains why he's so far down the order. So try and go the long way around up through the S's, not quite going to happen that time. We will get underneath him though at the top of the hill, of course, where he had that huge crash for Kimi Raikkonen. I believe that was in the real-life 2001 Grand Prix. There's Jarno Trulli. How much he's struggling here. Already holding up both of those Arrows cars. But really, yeah, I mean, he's basically just hoping for chaos, isn't he? And that he can keep them back for as long as possible here. But as we've seen so many times before, because the damage model in this mod is so absolutely ruthless, you know, it does make you take less risk. It does force you into being a little bit more careful. Some people hate it, some people love it. I think it's probably a little bit too aggressive, but still certainly adds an extra level to this. It's 3 wide, down in towards 130R. I said about taking risk. That was a pretty big one there, but we'll make it through. And now we've got a little bit of breathing room. This car honestly feels so good as we try and make our way up through the S's there. I mean, we were pretty much ran into the back of Johnny here, but I was just not expecting us to have as much straight line speed as we did. Of course, our former teammate, hopefully he's not going to make my life too difficult here, as we'll try and have a look down the inside, down at the hairpin. We'll just about slide on by there, but Johnny will come back at me on the exit. It's kind of that awkward thing if you have to send it in against the AI so they don't turn in on you. But still wheel to wheel with the BAR. We should have just a little bit more straight line speed. Definitely a lot more confident on the brakes. And we are back through and into unlucky 13th. You would really expect that unpredictable understeer that Ferrari have had all year long. You know, you'd think two drivers like Michael Schumacher and Mika Häkkinen would be able to drive around that. There's rumours swirling that Häkkinen could be retiring come the end of the year, which would be a bit of a shame to see, obviously, the Flying Finn not pick up a World Championship inside this game mode. It admittedly has been a little bit crash-prone quite often, actually, inside this series. Just trying to look down the inside of Benetton of Alexander Wurz. Oh, he wanted to turn in. We absolutely were not backing out of that one. But yeah, these Ferraris are going to be so difficult to get around unless I can do it through the S's. Look at that. They just run so deep in through the first part of the S's that it really does compromise them through a lot of the rest of it. And that Ferrari car is just so bad through there. Round the outside of Michael Schumacher. We have to pounce where we can. And again, Häkkinen, he doesn't get a particularly good run off the corner, but raw horsepower will kind of carry him there. As almost into the back of the man that we replaced over at McLaren. Can we get a run down in towards the hairpin? We'll absolutely go for it yet again. Way too far in, though. Oh, can we slow it down on the exit? Just about there. Make sure we don't lose a spot to Michael as well. But yeah, around the rest of the lap, this is going to be near impossible unless somehow he makes a mistake down through Spoon. Of course, obviously, we've already had problems with Ferrari down there. Of course, last season, coming to blows with Pedro Della Rosa, which ultimately still gave us a shot at the world title come the end of that season. But I mean, this has just been a Ferrari. I mean, it just encapsulates Enzo's ideology so perfectly, didn't it? That aerodynamics is for people that can't build engines there. As Häkkinen not wanting to make it easy for me. Around the outside we'll go, though. And we are back into the top 10.
Check your MFD for a new strategy option.
I mean, that thing's just ridiculous. Even Schumacher's going to have a look back past me in towards turn 1. That's not the line, though, Mika. And, oh no, I think the Ferraris have crashed. Yep, there you go, immediate safety car. I mean, look at this run. It's like I'm standing still against Häkkinen back down in towards turn 1 there, but way too optimistic on the way in. Schumacher thought about it, and both Ferraris gone in an instant. I mean, yeah, I mean, they're both just out of control, aren't they? How Ferrari haven't fixed this, I will never know. And again, it's a double DNF for the team in red. This does potentially really screw us over here, because of course now Jacques Villeneuve, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, they're effectively going to have the chance of a cheap pit stop as well. So I've got no idea whether we're going to come out ahead of them. I would assume basically everybody is going to dive it in, so well, it's not too bad for us. We should still be able to get somewhere near the front.
Slow down. Your delta is negative, which means you are too fast. Reduce your pace.
Just make sure though that we don't run into the back of another car. Oh, okay. The Jaguars have opted to stay out then, so not quite sure how that works. Coulthard's in, but I don't believe the Williams pit. How odd. Well, both Williams, both BAR cars, and I think Jenson Button all have not pit yet in this Grand Prix, but this has surely been a huge gamble by Williams. And, well, at the moment, I would say it's a really bad error, because obviously it's allowed us to be right back with them again. But obviously they've still got a pit before the end of the race. Mark's still talking about us pitting again, or Jeff even I should say. But that's definitely not going to be happening, as if we can try and find a way around these two BAR cars nice and quickly, that would be useful. But I mean, Frentzen, is he being told to be a rear gunner here for Jacques Villeneuve? Has he been told just to try and get the gap up a little bit? As we will find the grip around the outside of Rubens there, but a very popular move for me so far today. But yeah, we can afford to really push on in these next couple of laps as Jan Magnussen are running up in podium contention right now. I mean, what these guys would need is a red flag, but this is F1 2020. You don't get red flags. So yeah, real problem for them. But Villeneuve is trying just to run away. We don't stand a chance of getting a run on Frentzen down this back straight, but the Jaguar car we surely will. So yeah, Stewart Grand Prix, formerly known as. And past him we will go there. Happy with that one then, but are we going to see Villeneuve dive into the pit lane at the end of this lap? No, we're not. Frentzen opts to stay out as well. I wonder if they started this race on the harder compounded tyre, so they know the softer tyre couldn't get to the end, and that's what they did at Singapore. Didn't quite work for them either there. Michael Schumacher, of course, somehow took victory. I mean, look at how little grip Frentzen's got through there. Look at the lack of confidence. We will absolutely punish him for it. Up into P2 then, the highest we've ran so far this afternoon. But will we be able to hold him off around the rest of the lap? Oh, there we go. Villeneuve's in. Villeneuve's in. So that is critical then in this Grand Prix. So is Jan Magnussen. So back out into P1 we'll go. And, well, hopefully from here it's going to be the quietest second half of a race ever. I'm praying we just don't get a safety car between now and the end of the afternoon. But, I mean, could we be... dare I say it, could we be on for the team's first 1-2 of the year? Coulthard's up to P3. But obviously Frentzen has to pit as well. There we go, Frentzen's in. Frentzen and Rubens Barrichello are now in. So we can have a better look at what our top 5 is currently looking like. So Ralf Schumacher's up in P3. Genet and Fisichella, they were both very good in qualifying as well. Up to P4 and P5. I would expect Villeneuve to at the very least get back past Fisichella by the end. But of course, every position he can't gain could massively help us out in the driver's table. Well, Jacques Villeneuve then, he's running mid-131s right now. And he's about 12 seconds back from us at this stage of the Grand Prix. So his lap times are still looking very impressive. Not enough to get to us by the end of the afternoon, but Jos Verstappen now up into P5 of this Grand Prix. So, yeah, I'm just looking at the gaps. I really do wonder whether Jacques could get back to Ralf Schumacher by the end of this race. David Coulthard and myself, we've got the pace out front. We're looking pretty safe unless something crazy happens. But Villeneuve knows every place he gets will just make those last 3 races a little bit easier. Oh, there we go, Villeneuve. Villeneuve is back on the radar, only temporarily though. Jos Verstappen clearly doesn't want to make it easy for him. And quite funny, of course, that obviously the AI, so Villeneuve effectively in this game is Max Verstappen. So you could kind of make the argument that Verstappen is fighting with his dad. Well, I'm sure Genet feels pretty powerless to try and stop the advances of Jacques Villeneuve at this stage of the Grand Prix. But I'm just hoping he can do it for a couple of laps longer, just so maybe Ralf Schumacher has a chance to hold on. If somehow after all of this Villeneuve still gets a podium, I mean, it'll still massively help us in the table, but not as much as it could have done. I'm getting slightly nervous, though, towards the end. It's looking very overcast around this Suzuka circuit. And David Coulthard is right on my gearbox. I believe he still has not won a race this year, if I remember correctly. And unfortunately, at the moment, I'm hoping Ron Dennis gets on the radio and tells him to hold station. Come on, just over 3 laps to go, and Coulthard has definitely been told he's allowed to race this. Really not what we need at the moment, especially when we got a lapped car that we're coming up to quite quickly. It is, of course, Fernando Alonso in the Minardi, and I don't think Jarno Trull is that far in front of him either, as Villeneuve now moves up into P3, so Villeneuve is still going to bag a podium from this GP. Alonso is going to let us buy in towards turn 1. I think he's going to do the same, though, for DC, because he is all over my gearbox. Luckily, we're a bit better than our teammate through Sector 1. The different setups that we're using this weekend, I mean, he's just got so much more top end. Come on, Jarno Trulli, we just need him to try and give us a little bit of breathing room ahead of David Coulthard. You can just see Jarno hanging on. Oh, he's not going to let us by before Spoon. I mean, he shouldn't have to, he's still way in front. But it just means, again, that DC is going to get past him as soon as we do as well. There is Jarno Trulli. Does kind of peel off the racing line. We'll try and get a bit of a slipstream off him as well. And through he will go then. And yep, David Coulthard has come straight by alongside us. 1/10 in it as we make our way through 130R. He's going to have a look for it. Down at the Casio Triangle, David Coulthard having a look for a move for the lead of the Grand Prix. This is not what we need at this stage of the afternoon. The team need to get onto him to work together here. Because, I mean, we can't afford to back out of it, but we might not have much choice. David Coulthard round the outside, in towards Turn 1, and up into P1. And McLaren, you know, this isn't papaya rules, but David Coulthard is through. And if we lose this World Championship now by, what, less than 7 points, that might be the difference maker. I mean, that is like multi-21, Seb, 12 years before it happened, out in Sepang. And David Coulthard, as he starts the last lap of this Grand Prix, you know, I understand it from his perspective. He's had a torrid season. He wants to try and get a win on the board, but sometimes you've just got to play the number 2. It's what he had to do with Hakkinen, obviously IRL in the late 90s. But he just has refused to today. We'll make that move happen with just 2 laps left here. Jacques Villeneuve, luckily, is way too far back to do anything. But as we wind our way up through the S's one final time, if we can't get a run here, which we're certainly not going to be able to, don't think we're going to be able to get a run anywhere unless his tyres, or he just starts to struggle a little bit towards the end of this race there. But let me know what you guys think of that down in the comments below. You know, 4 rounds left of the season. Villeneuve guaranteed P3. If you were the team principal of McLaren, would you say Coulthard's allowed to fight at the moment? Or would you just say, you know, we've got to focus on the constructors, we've got to pick up the big points as a team? I mean, constructors-wise, we're going to make some big gains on Williams as well here. I think we're probably going to need a bit more luck to try and get back to them in that championship there. But as we make our way through Spoon one final time, it has been another dramatic race here from Suzuka, but down in towards 130R for the last time. David Coulthard, I can't remember the last time he won a race in this series. Honestly, I think he's only ever won a couple, but through he goes. He is going to take the victory here for McLaren. I'm sure he will be happy with that. I'm sure there will be conversations after the race as well. David Coulthard will win the Japanese Grand Prix.
Another action-packed Japanese Grand Prix comes to an end. And what a magnificent drive to take the win here today. So Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection. A shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
After an excellent performance at the Grand Prix, I'm sure there'll be plenty of celebrations tonight amongst the Mercedes team. And they certainly deserve it.
There we are then. David Coulthard will take the win. McLaren, you know, we've got to be happy that we've bagged our first 1-2 of the year, but certainly not in those circumstances. It is not what we would have wanted there. Jacques Villeneuve comes through for P3 in the end, so what could have been a 10-point gain is only going to be a 3-point, cut down of his margin, so I'm a little bit disappointed there. Ralf Schumacher in 4th, ahead of both Saubers. Both Sauber and Jordan look very good this weekend. Jean Alesi from 17th on the grid, recovered to 7th, ahead of Jan Magnussen, Frentzen down in P9, and Johnny Herbert rounding out your top 10 and your point scorers there. It was only Raikkonen and the Ferraris that failed to see the checkered flag. Both Minardis ended up 1 lap down in the end. So in terms of your championship, then 23, the gap still between myself and Villeneuve, it could have been 16. That would have felt a lot more useful. Frentzen, not the weekend he would have wanted there. Loses a fair bit of ground. And actually, yeah, Coulthard, if he can get another couple of wins on the board, could get close to him by the end of the year. Barrichello still ahead of Schumacher. The second Schumacher, only 10 points back now behind Rubens. So that battle for best of the rest is still looking very, very exciting. Giancarlo Fisichella in 8th, still ahead of Genet and Verstappen there. Further down the order, any other movers? Looks like Jean Alesi got the jump on Wirtz and Hakkinen as well. Hakkinen is down to P16 in the championship in a Ferrari. I never thought we'd see that inside this game. Constructors-wise, still a 72-point buffer for Williams. They could actually wrap that up next weekend if they can outscore us by 16 points as well. Ferrari still ahead of Jordan and Benetton, but for how much longer, only time will tell. 4 points in it between Sauber and Jaguar there. But thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed, and we'll be back very soon ready for the US Grand Prix.